and welcome to another episode of HFTP's Viewpoint. I'm Geneva Reinhardt. In today's episode, we're taking a different focus on hotel technology. In this episode, we'll look through the investor's perspective. We're exploring where smart money is flowing, what innovations are gaining traction, and what it takes for technology solutions to deliver real value in our industry. To help us answer these questions, we're fortunate to have two exceptional guests with us today, both seasoned investors who've spent years evaluating hotel technology companies and backing the innovations they believe will shape the future of our industry. Their insights will shed light on key trends and considerations that hoteliers should be aware of as they navigate the complex tech landscape. By the end of this episode, listeners will gain a clearer understanding of how to align their technology strategies with investor expectations for maximum impact. We have Prakash Shukla with Wayfair Ventures, who brings a unique perspective combining operational hotel expertise with investment acumen in the hospitality technology sector. And joining us as well is Dave Burkus, speaker, consultant, angel investor, and author of the Burkonomics book series. Dave has evaluated countless technology startups across industries and brings cross-sector wisdom to hospitality technology investing. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Geneva. Looking forward to it.
Yes. Prakash, we're going to start with you. Welcome. And if you would, please tell us a little about your background and how you found your way to the hotel industry.
Well, my my induction into hospitality industry was just by chance. I was working at IBM Research Labs in speech recognition area, working on writing speech recognition algorithms, and just by chance, I got connected to Mr. Tata, and then I ended up at Taj Group of Hotels as Senior VP and CIO of the Taj Group of Hotels. So that was my first induction into hospitality industry in 1999. Had never ever worked there before. And then over time, I learned about complexity of the industry.
Excellent. Dave, let's talk a little bit about your background and what drew you to investing in technology and hospitality.
Well, if I can do it in a few sentences, that'll be difficult, but let's try. At the age of 15, I created my first company, a record manufacturing company that put me through college. And I sold in 1974 to get into the computer industry as a programmer. And I programmed for the record company first, what turned out to be the back office for hotels. And by 1975, I began installing this back office program that I programmed in what turned out to be 215 Los Angeles-based businesses of all kinds. And the 215th was a hotel, which today is the Fairmont Hotel in Los Angeles near the beach. At the time, it was a Sheraton. And so I programmed what I think to be one of the first 3 or 4 front office systems for that hotel. And I can remember well an industry veteran named John Pignataro telling me that if I didn't do well, I would never make it in this industry. And he became a close friend. But in the end, that one programming effort led me to specialize in the hotel industry, changed the name from Burkus CompuSystems to Computerized Lodging Systems. And before the arrival of some competitors I won't name from Germany, we were the leading hotel system in the United States and then in the world. We had 26 offices, of which 9 were around the world. We had 27 distributors and 2,000 systems, one of which was a license to Marriott in 1982 front office system. And our specialty was running multiple hotels on a single computer that was located somewhere, usually in an office building. So the back offices could be consolidated with reduction of employees. Marriott liked that. They were just considering the beginning of what they later called Courtyard, and they used this to create Courtyard. And so it's a great story to tell because we had thousands of hotels. Marriott, I don't know if it's today, but let's go back for 2 years just to be safe, was using our system programmed in the 70s and 80s in 4,100 hotels worldwide. And that just says that even sometimes green screen software can survive. But I sold the company in 1990, operated it for the buyer for 3 years till 1993, and began investing the money that I made in selling computerized lodging systems into what turned out to be 208 early stage companies, many of them, or some of them, in the hotel industry. So I've been in the hotel industry since 2000, well, since 1974, and investing in it since 2003. And so Prakash and I are great friends. We were partners for Wayfair Ventures for a while before I sold my interest to him. And he and I still communicate regularly. Hope that helps.
And
Oh, yeah.
Dave is still an advisor on Wayfair Ventures
I am.
team. So
Excellent. Dave, I knew you had a long history, and so thank you for sharing that with us. Well, we have a lot to cover today, so let's dive right in with some questions. The first one we have is, as an investor focused on hospitality technology, what makes hotel tech an attractive investment space? Dave, do you want to start with that one?
Sure would. I would say that today the focus, as everybody guesses, is AI. And why? Because, first of all, the turnover, especially in the front office, is so great that training is not only difficult, but it's expensive. And institutional knowledge is rare in the front office. So it turns out that AI can help a lot. Our investments lately have been 50% in AI, and I'll include robotics when I speak of that. And so the bottom line is um, if you ask why and how much, the answer is almost all AI today. It'll be a bubble. There are 3,000 companies we've identified, not all in hospitality, of course, in AI. And I'm going to guess that in 5 years we'll be down to 20. But I have identified 5 areas in AI in hospitality that have interested me. And they are obviously AI and workflow. And I think we'll talk about that most. But think of it as AI in strategic marketing as well, AI in corporate protection, security, AI in management resource. Management needs help, and there are a lot of places where it can be found. And finally, AI and robotics together so that robotics become a great part of the workflow. So that is my answer to where we begin in this environment today.
Wow. Prakash, what do you have to add to that?
well, my perspective is that I think every single, as Dave mentioned, every single aspect of hospitality industry is being impacted by AI. But one area which is a real crying need is in terms of labor shortages. And when you look at large groups that have their own captive call centers, training each one of those representatives costs significant amount of money, and then the attrition levels are so high. And I've actually seen demos of conversational AI whereby you can quickly train these models to replace that human being. And as a fallback, obviously, you can get to an operator. But you're seeing huge paybacks very, very quickly. And you don't have the attrition headaches with respect to training costs, with respect to just familiarization with the industry itself, because there aren't very many hospitality industry experts out there. So therefore, you get a regular call center agent, then that agent needs to be trained in hospitality lingo, understand the layout of the hotels, etc. So huge opportunities. There are huge opportunities in revenue management and pricing. Um, so from my point of view, just even in data cleansing, for example, so many hotel groups have dirty data in their customer information systems. Well, a lot of that data, it becomes garbage essentially when you want to get meaningful insights out of it. So there are agents that can go and clean up that data and make sure that you have a fairly clean database. So, unlike in the past cycles, while AI is perceived to be a bubble, my personal view is that this time it's backed by real actual revenue models, rather than you look at dot-com bubble of 1999 2000, where there wasn't really a meaningful revenue model. So I don't think it's as much of a hype as one perceives it to be at the present, or when you listen to market mavens, essentially.
Okay. We jumped right into AI. That was like my
We
third or fourth
did.
question in here, but we came right out of the gate with it. While everyone is kind of focused on AI, what else is happening? You mentioned, Prakash, about labor. Are there sometimes there's some transformative innovations in areas where there's less hype. Are there other trends that hoteliers should be paying attention to?
My perspective, I think AI definitely leads the charts, but certainly there are other innovations that will basically intersect with AI. For example, blockchain. We're seeing quite a lot of activity in sustainability. Not to be sort of political, but in certain, when you look at Europe, Asia, there's still huge amount of focus on sustainability. And I think that you're going to see applications of blockchain, in order to create carbon tokens, for example, coming up with much better sustainable hotels, which use less energy, etc. And all of these things will be eventually linked to AI. And one area where it'll be linked is in terms of data centers. So blockchain requires significant amount of computing power, and at the same time, these data centers that run AI large language models also require significant amount of computing power. So they sort of converge at the infrastructure level, but I think you're going to see quite a lot of real world assets being tokenized also. And you'll see more and more uses of blockchain technology in hospitality industry.
Mhm. Dave, how about you? Do you see anything that's not specifically AI focused?
Sure. First of all, let me kind of be the opposite side of the coin, haha, on the blockchain argument. The speed of blockchain is slow at this point in time, so it's not going to replace, say, credit card transactions or anything of the kind. Blockchain will be very slow to be adopted, and I'm staying away from it, just like I would stay away from cannabis. All of those things are not necessarily mainstream. So your question, Geneva, is where do you think the best return on investment in the hospitality industry is today? And Prakash did touch on a couple of those. The call center application falls within what I said in the workflow of AI. And the problem with that is there are probably 25 vendors today who provide that call center software that was just described. And there will be a consolidation in those companies as well. So, in early stage investment, I have to be very careful that we see a company that has great management, for one, because they're going to pivot and they're going to have to be able to compete in an industry that is growing very fast but will mature very quickly as well. So, those warnings in several of the areas. On the other hand, robotics are more difficult for the companies, more expensive for early stage companies, absolutely more productive for the hotels. Now, we started out with robotics and maintenance. You saw that right away in things like attempting to clean the rooms by cleaning the floors. We saw that in delivery to the rooms of products, including meals. We saw that in experimenting at the front desk, which has been poor, but it was there. And we saw that in window cleaning and other things. It's just the beginning. Robotics will certainly, in the use of AI, become very important for us. However, it'll take larger investors, more in the way of investment, and a little more time before it's accepted in the industry. Yet I would look to that. And then
So,
finally,
yeah, go ahead, Dave. Finish.
And the final thing to say is security, which we didn't talk about, involving both AI and actual security attempts to protect with software for security is important. I'm remembering 4 years ago, when it was Target that was hit through a Micros terminal at one of the Target stores that got into Target corporate. Now, I know that's not hospitality, but it certainly is a warning, because there was a terminal that wasn't protected at the time, and each of us has access points. So those are things to talk about as well.
So Dave,
Sorry for touching something.
I just want to comment on one thing. We missed one really good transaction on robotics when we looked at it. We won't mention names, obviously, but we almost invested and then we didn't. Just to sort of enunciate a little bit on what you said about blockchain. So, in fact, if you look at the data over the last 2 years, the crypto market cap went from 1 trillion to 3.77 trillion dollars.
Yes.
With the recent regulatory announcements, particularly with SEC and with the Trump administration, what you're beginning to see is the democratization of stablecoins. And where I was alluding to blockchain usage, not so much using blockchain physically within the hotel industry, but your whole payment infrastructure is going to change significantly. So let me just clarify what I mean by that. Today, when you use a credit card, you're paying 2 to 5% as an establishment to the credit card company. With the use of stable coins, that friction goes down to 1/10 or even 1/100th of that. So therefore, I think the first manifestation of a lot of the blockchain applications that you'll see, not just in hospitality industry, but in any service industry, will predominantly be based on payments and the payment rails at the back end. You're still transacting US dollars, but they're stable coins. They're not actual fiat currency in a sense that it's pegged to a fiat currency. So that's where I see quite a lot of very, very interesting applications. As you know, Walmart, Costco, and all the major hyperscalers, Amazon, are beginning to develop solutions using stable coins, because if they can get rid of the credit cards, they save 20 to 30 billion dollars on their P&L. So those are the kind of massive opportunities that exist in payment space with the use of blockchain. And in fact, the blockchain penetration is increasing over the past few years. As I said, it's at 3.77 trillion now.
That's some great information. I think that kind of leads into one of my next questions, which is, when you have your investor hat on and you're running through your evaluation framework, what are, beyond the technology itself, what factors are you using to determine where you invest?
As my friend Dave always says, we always bet on the jockey.
And not the horse. That's right.
Exactly.
And not, of course.
It's the management, it's the founder, it's the vision of the CEO. Because, as I think I mentioned earlier, everybody pivots. So an early stage company will never be the same after it meets the marketplace. But what you really asked for is, what are we looking for? And we said at the very beginning, AI is overwhelmingly the present thing. It is a series of trends in our industry. And that trend for AI will continue, as you heard Prakash say, because there is such depth in it. But as we begin to go further, the next one is robotics. We haven't yet fully explored all the things we can do with revenue management. And if we use AI to begin to do through revenue management and projections of future occupancy, we're going to make a lot more money from the same resources. And that is the bottom line. And that's where the investment, I think, other than security, is going to find.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a good area that has a lot of potential for growth. Let's see, I have a different kind of a question. The hotel industry is very different than generic businesses. And how important is it for hotel technology startups to demonstrate that they understand the unique challenges of the hotel operations, and the complex distribution ecosystem that we have?
I'll start. Uh, First of all, if you're speaking about these early stage startups and what they're going to do, it's important for me to see that the startup has solved a need, not a want. And ordinarily, that means something that ordinarily doesn't happen. Usually, somebody has an idea and they say, I'm going to produce this particular maid cart system that will speed the way in which the maids can go to the right rooms at the right time, which is, by the way, 4 or 5 companies competing to do this today. And so they have developed what they thought the industry would need. If they would sit down with senior management or middle management, even at the hotel level, let alone the management company or chain level, and find out where the pain points are, and then come back and develop the product based upon that and prove to the investor that they are answering the question from a need that has been established, I am much more impressed and more willing to invest.
Yeah, my 2 cents on this is that while domain expertise is important, um, in in certain instances, it can be sort of the box that boxes you into thinking horizontally and not really thinking more broadly. And therefore, we want to see people who understand the nuances of the problems in hospitality industry, but at the same time, we want to see people who are sort of thinking much bigger in terms of canvas where they can deploy their technology, because I think that the applications for a lot of these technologies should have adjacency, in a sense that they can sort of migrate from hospitality industry to assisted living industry, for example, or cruise lines, so that your canvas becomes much bigger and you're solving a problem. So it's not necessary that the person has to have very deep domain expertise just in the hospitality industry alone, but the person should be really solving a very significant pain point. But that pain point also solves problems in other industries.
Yeah, that's very good advice.
If I can add to that for a second,
Of course.
what Prakash just said that we look for, there is the total available market, which he described as being very broad. And there is the serviceable available market, which is, in our case, perhaps a single thing in the hospitality industry that was the initial programming effort. And we look to see if there is this extension that Prakash just mentioned into the total available marketplace, because it's always much bigger.
And absolutely, I mean, if you look at our investment track record, right? I mean, Dave, you and I, when we started, we focused on, and we did some iconic transactions, right? We did Cloud Beds, we did Resort Pass, we did some very interesting transactions. But as you sort of peel through the layers, what you find is that there just aren't enough transactions that are really purely focused on hospitality vertical. So then we started going broadly. So that's what brought in investments like iGen, which I know, Dave, you weren't involved in that particular transaction, but iGen, ChargeNet stations, the parking, what was the
Okra.
name of that?
Okra, one of my favorites,
Okra.
because
Okra,
this
right?
was somebody that I coached into beginning his company, and we
Incredible, right?
invested a small amount.
Has sort of a tangential application for hospitality industry,
There
but
you are.
yet it's outside, right?
That's right.
Yeah. This has been a very comprehensive discussion. I really appreciate this. We're actually coming to the end of our time, but before we wrap up, I would like to give you each a little bit of time to give a final thought. If there's something you want to leave our audience with, whether they're a hotelier evaluating technology, or an investor who's building in the space, or someone who's very passionate about technology in hospitality. Dave, would you like to leave us with a final thought?
Sure. First of all, investors can be led with very shiny objects as opposed to being led by attraction toward a management team that we know is able to help pivot and find the right solution to critical needs. And in this industry, as we described during this environment today, there are some critical needs. Most of them revolve around labor, which is the highest expense hotels have. And most of them revolve around competition, which is intense in this industry. So solving problems that relate to labor savings and competition effectiveness are certainly our first two things. We talked about the tools being AI and blockchain. So investors should be very aware that it is the needs and not the wants.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Dave, wholeheartedly. I think as you sort of evolve your thesis in terms of investments in this industry, it's always about the team, right? They may have sort of marginal idea, but if they come across as people who have tenacity to be able to sort of iterate through and sort of overcome insurmountable sort of difficulties along the way, those are the guys you want to back, right? You don't want people who are extremely bright, they have a quick idea, but then they quit halfway down the road, because the process of innovation, process of entrepreneurship is 99% sweat and only 1% inspiration. And I think a lot of these guys are attracted by the shiny object piece of it. But then when it comes to doing real work, they realize how difficult it is and they drop the ball in the process.
Yeah. And definitely need to take it all the way to the finish line. So, well, thank you both for your time today. For our listeners, you've just heard from two seasoned investors who are actively shaping the future of hotel technology through their investment decisions and their industry expertise. Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you so much, Prakash. We really appreciate your insight and your vast knowledge of the industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here.
So, whether you're a hotelier trying to separate signal from noise, a founder building solutions for the hotel industry, or simply someone passionate about where hospitality is headed, I hope this conversation has given a clearer lens on the investor's perspective. You can find more insights, articles, and resources on hospitality technology at hospitalityupgrade.com. Thank you to our sponsor, Post Hospitality Payments, for their partnership and support of this series. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Hospitality Upgrade for more episodes as they are released. I'm Geneva Reinhart, and this has been HFTP's Viewpoint, Episode 4. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. To learn more about how Post Hospitality Payments can elevate your payment experience, just scan the QR code on your screen to connect with us. We appreciate you joining the conversation, and we'll see you in the next episode of the HFTP Viewpoint podcast series.